I met a gypsy.
Maybe we'll talk about the WSX thing then for a little bit. So, I mean, even it's funny. Like, so I was so vocal when it came out.
I know
because I was definitely like pretty over the level of pay that the guys got in terms of, it's great to have the manufacturer support and like that's fantastic. But if you don't have that, and you're one of the best going, you should still be able to make money, right?
Correct.
And I think that was like because it's the same as any business or the same as any athlete. Like there's a level that you need to be able to invest in yourself and into your career to reach a level of excellence at that craft, right? So like to be Ricky Carmichael in 2003, 2005, I mean, he probably spent $1 million a year on himself. Like between trainers, between facility, between private jets, between like, so that's where the money is important in a sport. Is because how much can you invest in yourself to become a better version of yourself? Because that's essentially what sports are doing. Every year you get this compounding effect of the knowledge and the experience from the years before, and the bar just keeps getting raised and raised and raised and raised. Like that's how you progress in things. And when there's like a real blatant like cap on what people have the potential to then make, that caps like how they can invest in themselves. So it's just growth gets stunted there, right? And then you've got less of a pool to pick from. You've got like, there's such a dramatic follow-on effect that comes from that. And then when you've only got the one series that makes all the rules and has all the, they've got all the marbles, right? Competition is what breeds, that's what free market democracy is built on.
Exactly.
And it's exactly what you did with the US Open. So when Corona was around, the COVID times, so I'll back up. So you have this announcement that comes out from Feld and MX Sports. We've combined, we're doing all this. It's been in the works for years. We've had this idea for so long. But it's like 5 months after the WSX announcement, and then there's guys leaving contracts because they're not allowed to ride. It was a bit of a mess. But what it did do was create a lot of extra value in the series. And, I mean, from what I can gather, the most impactful thing that it's done, and I've spoke to a bunch of people like on and off record about it, is uniting MX Sports and Feld was just huge. Like there was just this gigantic rift between these two opposing forces that just in no way needed to be there. And it was there for like fucking 20 years, right?
They were not even mentioning a guy that was a motocross champion during a Supercross broadcast. Or like
didn't exist.
Yeah, it didn't exist. Like it was talking about, he won twice Supercross title and 5 times the outdoor, but nobody was mentioning it. It was crazy.
A crazy time. And so I guess when you listen to Davey tell the version of like his version of the story, the whole COVID safe to race thing kind of got the conversation started, right? So it seems like in 2020, that's when the conversation really got going between the two. But I mean, I'd love to get your perspective on it,
absolutely.
but I don't think
the catalyst was WSX. I mean, WSX got people into a panic, and rightfully so. I mean, personally, I had a target on my back instantly. I mean, it's like everybody was looking at me like I'm gonna get involved and stuff. This is evil and what. I'm like, whoa, guys, let me make my own decision before you pull the trigger. You know, because it was when Feld left FIM, I knew something would happen. And
in what way?
In one way, like I knew there would be a World Championship Supercross. And I knew it would be in my environment. I mean, I knew it would be, our Australian friends.
It would be a foreigner that would come.
I knew, and I worked with the WSX people 10 years ago, helped them start the first big Supercross in Australia, and I knew they had the talent to do it. But they were young, they were excited, and I think it was the right project for them. But it was not the right project. I mean,
Mm.
now it's just like I kind of tell you, I knew the phone call was coming. I knew like, hey, we need to talk to you. We're gonna buy the rights of that. I'm like, wow, that's just be careful, guys. Just be careful. It's you're gonna spend a lot of money for building something that you're gonna build. You're not gonna spend money for something that you already exist.
Yeah.
And that became what and. I'm very sad to say I was 95%, correct all the time. It was just the economic of it. This idea that we're gonna expose Supercross in countries that don't care about Supercross doesn't fly with me.
Mm.
It just the idea that we're gonna do a Supercross in Indonesia. It's not economically sound. Like once again, the triangle: Australia, Europe, US. I mean, North America. That's even just outside of North America.
Canada.
Just Canada is a challenge.
Yeah, tough to make it work.
Yes, I revived the Montreal Supercross in 2015 for 3 years until COVID, and I'm telling you, I was like, wow, this is not the same as US. I mean, the mentality is a lot more cautious and not. I really thought that we're gonna be embraced. It was a challenge. People were not as
Receptive.
yes as I thought they would be. So all that experience kind of taught me a lot of things. You have to go where you are welcomed, and we know when we do a Supercross in Paris, we know we have the fans there. We don't have unlimited amount of fans. We have 35,000. That's kind of like the number, and it's been like that for 30 years. So we know we have those fans, and they seem to be willing to invest in that event every year. I think we're gonna do the same thing in Australia now. Because we with the old team of OzX, we're gonna relaunch OzX in a couple of weeks. So I think it's the same thing. There is a captive audience which is completely in in awe of the Lawrences. And I think we're going to be able to bring the Lawrences back to Australia. It's like bringing GMB back to France in 1992. It's the same story. It's going to be...
Fuck, I actually just got goosebumps about that, yeah.
It's exciting. And that is what we're trying to do. I think you have to be at the right place at the right time and do the right job, which is, and the WSX... as we knew it, I don't know about the new package, the new scenario. I'm not aware of it. I just, like you, I know about the 3 location, which are 3 location that are sketchy in audience. I mean, it's a reality. I was with Feld when we did Supercross in Vancouver. It just didn't work. I mean, in the Middle East. It's not like a super big motocross audience. I was in Qatar at the GP with 2,000 spectators. As much as I enjoyed it, I don't think it was a captive audience. And for Australia, I'll let you give me your opinion about doing a race in Perth. But I've been in Perth. It's pretty far away from everything in Australia. So I don't know. I mean, it's once again, you have to choose the right location.
Yeah, and so WSX, I guess, came in like a bit of a wrecking ball, and I think that was the catalyst. And it's such a bummer because like Bailey's such a good friend of mine.
Yeah,
I've known him since I was, I want to say like 19.
Yeah,
like I go way back with him.
He's a great guy. I always
Unreal
believed
guy.
in him.
Yeah.
I was worried about the project, and him and I, we always were close, and I see me in him. I said, this is the guy that is as crazy as I was when I was his age, and he has the talent, and he's good, I was like, wow. I said, be careful. I kept telling him, be careful. Like when he telling me dates, he said, I'm going to that location. I said, been there, done that. It's not good, and he was listening, but he was not always wanting to believe me. It was a choice. Sometime and he was in a group of people that were not bad people, but they didn't have much experience. I witnessed Anaheim 2-3 years ago with that group of people, and they were watching Anaheim 2, thinking like, oh, we can do much better than that. I'm like, guys, just be humble. Yeah.
Well, I think Tony Cochran was the issue, really.
Yes, I mean he was the ringleader for that.
Yeah. And the problem is, this is like just everyone can think about this, right?
Yeah.
Like we'll just use Bailey as an example. 1-on-1, with nothing else around, is way different to like you give him your opinion and you give him your thoughts about why something can work. If it's one person and he gets to take that on advice, and then he gets to make the decision, a much different outcome to then you surround him with 7 people and they're all giving opinions and they're all explaining away why you're wrong about this. And then you can just start to like shape the things that you think and believe and just get a fully warped perspective on what's actually real.
And you and I, we've been in that situation.
It's so hard.
It's like, being around the table and something is not going to work, but then with everybody, you're like, oh, you may be right, and maybe it's, and we have to give chances. We have to work as a team, because it's, without the others, you don't succeed once again, you know.
But so fast forward, it obviously doesn't work out, but I believe that really was a catalyst. I believe it's funny. It's like a little bit of a bit of a moto controversy in a sense, or like a bit of a moto conspiracy, like, oh, Fell would have never done SMX if this didn't come along. Maybe it's very hard to know for sure, but I definitely believe that they were talking about the COVID race safe and that brought them together. But I also firmly believe that without WSX we would have never got SMX. And
I would agree with you.
And after speaking to so many people about it, like, they nailed it with SMX.
Yes.
And, like, I genuinely think I didn't know at the start. I didn't know how I felt about it, and I think it's going to evolve over time. But the reality of it is, and this is from a lot of conversations that I've had, is that there's 31 races that gives NBC a much more enticing package to buy as a sport that they can market throughout the year. They injected millions of dollars into the programming of it, and the investment into shoulder programming, and like there's all these things that Supercross needed to jump into the future. Obviously, still a long way to go, but then the effect that it's had on motorsport, like on motocross. So like I've heard like 30% up in attendance just once SMX started. And just the processes that have been put in place, like everything got legitimized by WSX. And it's like, I fucking love Adam, and he's a great friend of mine. And he's out of the WSX now, and I'm willing to bet he lost a lot of money personally. And
I would agree with you once again.
That would have been a very painful thing to go through. But I hope one day people will look at him and respect what he did for the sport, like in a very similar way to what you did with the US Open. Like he was a catalyst for a change that happened that was for the greater good of this sport, and I think over time, hopefully, he'll get the credit for that, even though it probably cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No, it's the money that was burned, during those 2 years. We'd retire us forever, but it's, there was some talent there that finding it just did. I think they went into a higher gear too quickly, and they just, I love that saying is speak softly and carry a big stick. And I think they did exactly the opposite. And we've seen that a couple times in the last few years. We've seen people just a little bit too aggressive at first, and they realize, but once you've put the bar there, it's difficult to tell people, you're gonna go there and it's a success. It's just a reality of life. So lesson to younger people: just be quieter sometime. Just do your work. be successful, then get to the next step. It's difficult to just say you're gonna just go to the moon right away. Just take off.
Yeah. I love that. Speak softly and carry a big stick.
Yeah, that was Roosevelt that said that. I think, but American history is not my specialty, but I think it was it was Roosevelt.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.